I had this thought, and actually, this is really, really good because my son-in-law Alex called me last night, and he said, I got this real problem, and I just wanted to bounce this idea off you. And I'm like, please, tell me, Alex, what's wrong? What could possibly be wrong? And he told me that the Beef Wellington is such a beautiful dish, isn't it? Right?
Yeah,
Everyone loves a good Beef Wellington.
I've only had it once. It was Hell's Kitchen. Worst experience of my life.
Okay, well, that's a you problem. But you know what a Beef Wellington is, right?
Yeah, it looks good on TV.
It looks good on TV, right? You do the cross cut, and it's all really tasty. A Beef Wellington is just a glorified corn dog.
I can see that. Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy.
It's a glorified.
Well, a little upscale corn dog.
Yeah,
it's an upscale corn dog. Yes.
Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah,
Filler's a little different. I mean, it's still meat, and I don't know if you want to consider
it's dough. It's some sort of doughish product.
Yeah,
and wrapped inside of protein.
So it's just missing the stick.
Thanks, Alex.
It's time for the Bookie and the Bettor Show. If you're a sports fan, now it's time to play the odds and make every bet count. New episodes post every Thursday on your favorite streaming service. Now introducing Rob Kowalski, the Bookie, and Randy White, the Bettor.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Bookie and Bettor Show. Thank you so much for joining us. It is episode number 14 of the season. Woo. I'm Robert Kowalski, your host. I'm joined once again by my friends and colleagues, Nick Schulte, Randy White.
Thank you. Nice being here.
Yes, it's always great to be here. Thank you so much for joining us as we break down Week 16 and some other things. Of course, if you actually went and backed the dogs this year, like you may have done in the NFL last year, you're not doing well. You're not doing well at all. It was another very good week for favorites in week number 15. Outright winners, very, very good in terms of those numbers. I think there were 12 winners on the games that we chose as favorites, and they did well against the spread. Those totals still seem to fall under. No surprise as well. As we continue to look at an unorthodox schedule where we have two games on Saturday. Of course, Thursday, of course, is the game that's just been played. Bengals and Steelers, Bills and Chargers on Saturday at the Book at Baldini's. We're going to still have the Bengals a 2.5-point favorite to total 38 in Pittsburgh. The Buffalo Bills resurging at 12.5 points the better at the LA Chargers, who have simply closed up their shop and they decided to end their season prematurely, but I guess that's how football typically goes, gentlemen. I would like to go and ask you both just a couple of questions first. Actually, you know what? This actually came to my mind, and we were talking about this, Nick, last week. Mm-hmm. Randy, so I gave a proposition, a little bit of stale news now, I think, which I know which way you would go. But I presented to Nick. I said, here's the proposition I'm going to give you. NFL MVP for the regular season. I'm going to give you Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott, and I get the rest of the league for the MVP. And Nick goes, we don't even have to roll this back. Nick goes, Purdy. Purdy. I said, wait, hold on. I'm giving you, and I'm like, whoa, no, hold on. Let me pull that back. And you said, no, I'm fine. Right, Nick?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He just wanted Brock Purdy. Looks pretty good, Randy.
Well, I was just looking at these stats day before yesterday. You realize he's going to beat Montana this year in completion percentage. He's going to do things that the greats didn't do. And his percentage of completions is off the chart. And I will say this. The 49ers do a great job with that West Coast offense. And when he rolls and they do that cutting route, he's phenomenal with that thing. When they're crossing that seam, he's amazing. He really is.
And my question for both of you, just kind of back to Purdy's my MVP and beyond that, if Purdy retired tomorrow and never played another NFL game, would he be in the NFL Hall of Fame? With some of the records he's broken.
He's got to win a championship to have a short term.
But I mean, right now, I want to say through the first 500 attempts, his his passer rating's at like 113. Number 2 is Mahomes at 103, and Rodgers at like 103.2 or something like that.
Well, you'd have to have
you go down the list. He's literally breaking every single record there is for the most part. And another stat is I believe he's second overall in pass yards, but he's 31st in passing attempts.
That's also
his
pretty
completion
insane.
percentage.
Yeah, like I mean, and who doesn't love an underdog story and going from Mr. Irrelevant to Mr. MVP and literally a season? I mean, it's just as a Niners fan, my entire life, I cannot remember a time that I've actually been excited for a quarterback. Maybe Steve Young.
Right.
I'm a little too young for Montana. I remember it, but didn't really grasp football at that point. So,
Well,
but
and
I'm literally excited every game to watch him take the field. As before, with Jimmy G, we knew what we were getting.
Yes.
The 5-yard pass downfield, and hopefully you're on the ball and defense.
And he has earned the respect of his teammates. And I think that's a key in the success that he's having. He came out, was confident. Of course, he was a winner in high school. He was a winner in college. So he's gained the confidence of these guys, and they have a lot of respect for him, and I think that shows on the field.
And I also don't think that this is a system quarterback, because if it was a system, remember, during the preseason, there was a lot of discussion about Trey Lance being the starting quarterback, and he did not really take to that water.
Yeah, well, I think, ESPN's a 24/7 network, and they need stuff to talk about, even if it's has really no fact or fiction. And we all knew Purdy was going to be the guy. If he was 100% and healed from his injury, there was no way Lance was taking that starting job.
And the thing I like, and I know you guys have heard this before, he's not an RPO quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So he's more of the traditional type quarterback. You're not going to see him running. You're going to see him throwing these short passes, scramble when he has to, but he is so on target with his pass completion percentage. And again, he's mobile enough where he can elude and throw that ball, and he throws it on a rifle.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so just some scenarios then. Since the discussion for MVP for regular season with 3 weeks to go. Oh, my God, there's 3 weeks left.
Jesus.
Let's just put up a scenario. San Francisco loses to Baltimore.
Blasphemy.
Scenarios. And let's also say that Dallas wins convincingly in Miami. Prescott has another monster game.
He closes
So
the gap.
he comes back to thinking it's the regular season.
He
and
thinks
not
it's yes.
not a playoff game like last week.
Exactly. And so, however the math figures out, Dallas wins the next 3. San Francisco loses the next 3. Who's your MVP? Is it Brock Purdy? You're
No.
Randy,
So,
you're
okay. It depends on what his stats are during that game. I mean,
so they are generic Brock Purdy stats, which are very good. They are like Pro Bowl caliber. But you lost those 3 games, and Dallas
the
won
only way
the 3.
if he comes out like he's averaging now,
Yes.
the only way they lose the next 3 games is the defensive thing. So I don't think he can hold the defense against him for an
Injuries. Don't
MVP.
forget injuries.
Oh, injuries.
And here's another
Knock on
scenario.
wood. Knock on
Now
wood.
think about this. Both of these teams, Cowboys and 49ers, are going to clinch.
Okay,
Okay, they're in the playoffs.
unless they lose the next 3.
Well, no,
Niners
Cowboys are already in.
I
So
believe
Niners are already
See
in.
next to them?
Yeah.
Niners have clinched.
So now what happens that last game and you don't play those guys?
It's a regular
Or
season
one
award.
plays.
This is a regular season award.
And again, that's what's hurt some of these other players right now. Tyreek Hill was on pace to have the biggest
Greatest
all-time
season.
record ever.
Yes.
He's missed a game, and he's already fallen back to 4th.
He's not. I don't even
So-
think he's 4th.
That's what's going to happen. And now you put in and you say, oh, I'm going to sit my guys this week. And let's say he sits Purdy.
Yes.
And Dak has an unbelievable
Just a wild
game.
game, right? What do you do?
You got to
I'm
go
giving
with
you a
Dak.
vote. You hear?
I would
Here's
take
piece
Dak.
Of paper. You're
I
taking
would take
Dak.
The NFL looks at losing streaks and looks at basically guys that have catapulted their teams into a winning record of
It's
playoffs.
a regular season award.
Yeah.
Nick, did I sway you in any way? I'm trying. Look, I know what team you back. Can you at least give me a little bit of lead that says that there's a chance that Prescott could still win this award?
I don't think Prescott could win the award. I just
You're
I
not
don't.
even giving me the lead.
I going back regular season award. I've looked at Prescott at his best and his worst.
Yes.
And,
Cowboy hater.
and another fun fact trivia. Did you know that Facebook was invented in 2004? And what that means is no Cowboys fan has ever celebrated a playoff win on Facebook. When's the last time it happened? Was 98? So that's how much I hate the Cowboys. But Prescott, he's a great quarterback. But I think if Purdy's out of it, how do you not give it to McCaffrey? I mean, that guy's.
Ooh, okay. Now I did not expect this conversation to go this way.
I mean, you take him out of the mix, the Niners don't look half as good as they're looking today. I mean, that's the guy that's really, since they made that trade, you've seen a different team.
Well, and we talked about this the last couple of days. 49ers were always known last year in the playoffs as a three-headed monster. You got Samuel, and you've got Kittles, and you got McCaffrey. Now you got a four-headed monster with Ayuk really playing well. That's another weapon now that makes them even more dangerous. And then you have that defense. Enough of the 49ers.
Again, nothing on Prescott. He's done some great things this year, but his off games, I still think there's other players this year that are more deserving of that MVP.
And here's the other trend you got to look at. The Dallas Cowboys are not made to come from behind. They don't play well when they're behind. When they're ahead in a game, they keep it going. But they don't play well from behind. And again, this could come into tell with this MVP race as well.
So this actually dovetails quite well into our first game on the menu. I'd like to go ahead and mention that, of course, the Miami Dolphins and the Dallas Cowboys, they've got plenty of injury questions, no larger than, of course, wide receiver for the Dolphins, Tyreek Hill, who sprained his ankle. He did miss the game last week, and it looks like he's been at least not practicing, but he's definitely walking, which is impressive.
I think he's got some other issues going on, too, at home right now.
Well, that's a Randy episode that we could put as an appendix sometime down the road. We're not here to talk about that one.
4 women now that have come out? And
4 losses. That's what Miami has. That's what Miami Dolphins are 10-4. So are the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, and remember, Dolphins have 3 offensive linemen banged up too. So, and I think 2 of them for sure out.
And so that's why this game currently sits at the Bookie Baldini's as Pick'em. The total was high. It was 51.5. It's down to about 50. There's some 49.5s out there. Randy, break this one down.
Cowboys big. If you go back the last 11 years. When the Cowboys give up 150-yard rushing on the game before, they win by
Randy,
18 points.
I never do this, Randy, but today in episode number 14, I have to do it. I can't accept that stat.
It's a true stat.
I don't care.
It's the white
I'm
4,000.
not taking 11 years of data.
11 years.
I want you to scale back to the last 18 months.
Most recent.
Thank you.
They will not, when they give up 150 yards rushing, the next week they win by an average of 18 points. And you look at this Cowboy team, they're going to want to come back with a vengeance. Now they're back in it. So the hype is there too because Philadelphia lost. This team, with as banged up as the Dolphins are, let me tell you something. Micah Parsons might have 5 sacks this week.
I would agree with that.
You're saying
on the 5 sacks thing.
Right. So if I said 4.5 sacks, you're going over.
Yeah. If Miami has 3 offensive linemen that aren't starting, I think that's a pretty safe assumption that he's going to wreak havoc.
You called it, so of course you're going over 4.5.
They force him to pass, take away the running game, and they're already a little still questionable with running. But now
Miami?
You got 20 touchdowns from Mostert, and you also got 8
but I mean, it's
back
still
on the
questionable. They're going to be questionable with the offensive line banged up.
Miami's averaging 30 a
I know
game
what they
at
did
home.
in the past.
I'm
talking about this week.
regular season.
And I know, but you have 3 offensive linemen. This game changes, and if you cut off the running attack, watch out.
So at Pick'em, I don't even have to talk about a point spread. You're on
I'm on the Cowboys.
Nick?
I think that if the Cowboys have a shot at winning their first playoff game since, 98, did we say? They need to win this game because momentum, they got 2 weeks after this. They're not playing a slouch team. They're playing a good team. They're quick. They're fast. But I think that Cowboys definitely have a better defense. And after they got embarrassed last week, I think they're going to come out with a vengeance, especially if they got some injuries on the Miami offensive line.
Cowboys big.
And yeah, I think, look at the last time when San Francisco blew out Dallas. What would Dallas do the very next week? I believe they came back with a vengeance. So I do see the Cowboys. It's going to be a high-scoring game. I think also proving last week that Miami knows how to win without Tyreek was kind of, I think, huge for their morale. But, I mean, this is almost like a playoff game, I think, in the Cowboys' eyes because, they literally took all the momentum out of their sails after what happened to them last week. But, again, it's also one of those AFC-NFC matchups. So, they don't play each other very often. Will that be more of a defensive ball control type of a game? At the end of the day, if I'm putting money on it, it's the Cowboys.
And again, with the NFC like it is, and I know there's a lot of teams still in contention per se, this is a huge game for the Dallas Cowboys. Mm-hmm. Bigger than for the Dolphins. This is a big game for the Cowboys.
Because Cowboys, they are currently in the 5th seed on the wild card because they have the same record as Philly.
Yes.
But then how does Philly have the tiebreaker? Because they beat Philly.
Stay tuned in the appendix and we'll let you know.
But here's the other thing you got to really think about. We've already seen it this year. The Dallas Cowboys don't play well on the road. That is in their minds right now. I will give you that. So this is a big game to get them off of that little cusp and get ready for the playoffs.
Can we Google how many Cowboys players actually live in Miami? Because I guarantee at least half their team probably lives in Miami.
It's probably likely.
So is it really a road game at that point?
That's a good point.
Randy, both of you actually are vigorously and vehemently backing Dallas here. I said Miami's about 30 points a game at home. They're not. I was wrong. They're over 35. They're almost a full 7 touchdowns scored at home. They're only giving up, that's at 16. 6-1 straight up at home, 5-2 against the spread. Gentlemen, tread lightly.
Time of possession will play a key part in this game. Write it down.
I have no side here.
Time of
both
possession.
of you are vigorously drinking from the Dallas well today.
Well, I'm just thinking. I've heard this. Defense wins something.
Defense wins championships. Yeah. Offense wins regular season games. Defense wins championships.
But I do think that they're going to approach this as a playoff-style game.
I definitely do.
Getting the momentum in, and Dallas has the better defense.
And I think it's actually a plus that this game is on the road because, trust me, that's been the billboard material that McCarthy's got in there, is we've got to win on the road. This is a big game for
listeners at home. And obviously, for all of you watching on YouTube, first off, thank you again. Wherever you are listening to us, whether it's on Spotify or iHeartRadio or on YouTube, thank you so much. Don't forget, if you haven't, like and subscribe to us. I tried, folks. I really did. I made a as even case as I could for the Miami Dolphins here, but it's a very one-sided table here, and it's tilted very heavily towards Dallas. So,
Randy, I don't remember if you asked me or we made a bet on it last week, but I said, hey, $100. Cowboys don't win a playoff game this year. Are you still thinking about that? Or?
Randy, that ticket's written. I don't know if you're aware of this.
That
has been bonded.
That discussion.
That's been bonded. A notary public came by and stamped that.
Well, let's put it this way.
There's nothing.
I'm going to hold that thought till after this week. Dallas wins on the road this week.
No.
A win will happen in the
only thing that could happen is
I don't
an adjustment.
remember making that bet.
The bet was made.
I want to
was
see
televised.
I'm going to throw the replay flag.
Game number 2, folks, is the Detroit Lions at 10-4 at the Minnesota Vikings, 7-7 on the year. Minnesota somehow can end up with a 10-7 record and make some noise. However, Detroit definitely is roaring right on back, and on the road even a 3-point favorite at the book of Baldini's, even as high as 3 minus 120. 47 is the total, and that seems to be pretty solid. What do we see here from this game? A little bit of everything. Obviously, Minnesota has already had quite a bit of injuries. They've been missing an awful lot from their offense. Defense has kind of been, they're good to give up anywhere between 21 and 26 points a game. However, they still are averaging 27 points a game on the season on the road. So in this current situation, they're still performing pretty well. Problem? Well, really, honestly, at home is where the problem is, and that's where Minnesota is going to be playing. 2-4 straight up, 2-4 against the spread. Nick, I'll let you start here with the Detroit Lions, -3.
and Minnesota's 2-4 at home against the spread.
2-4 straight up, 2-4 against the spread. Yes.
I don't see how the Lions aren't at least getting 6 in this game.
Okay.
I just think 3 points. It almost makes me a little nervous to bet on it because it should. Back to what we talked about a couple of weeks ago. When I'm looking at games, I always kind of play this thing in my head where if these two teams played each other 100 times,
yes,
who would win how many games? And at a -3, I think the Lions cover 70% of the time.
That was part of a new segment we dug up where it's where did the bookie go wrong? I think you may have chosen that one. Actually, I do want to come back because, yes, I may have given you accolades on the MVP. You also picked Tommy Cutlets on a money line there, New Orleans, but, that whole game kind of just went foobar on them. It's really not the quarterbacks. Randy, Lions and Vikings.
Well, here's the thing. You've got to believe the Lions are going to score 27, 28 points, okay? Can Minnesota put those kind of points on the board? Now, granted, the last couple of weeks, including I lost a lot of money on Detroit a couple of weeks ago, but can they score enough with Dobbs at quarterback and with a banged up? Again, Jefferson's going to be healthier than he was, but can they score 28 points?
Is Dobbs back in there now? Or I know they were going all over the place.
It may have been Mullins. I think it still might be Mullins, but the difference between Mullins and Dobbs, at least when I created the line, it's infinitesimal. It's about a quarter point.
Okay. Yeah.
So the question here was the health of Justin Jefferson, who is healthy. He will be present. He will be very active.
Well, I get it from a bookmaker's. You got to look at that stuff. But what was their record when Jefferson was healthy? They didn't start getting good until he went out.
It's actually true. And everything kind of fell to pieces. They won like 6 straight. It's true.
Yeah.
I just think
you get too one-dimensional, I guess.
My concern is exactly your point. I had this game at 4.5 to 5. It's at, so I don't know. Is that a trap? I have to believe that the Vikings can put up or cannot put up 28 points.
It's the way I kind of create these games. How many points can they score in this current situation? That's where I come up with my point spread. So
if you believe that and the Vikings do cover, the game's going to go under.
The math does call to that as well, exactly. And so that's what I did want to point out. Yes, play the game out 100 times, 1,000 times. Mm-hmm. How does the result come in? I think you might find that it might sway a little bit more in Minnesota's favor. The only thing that jumped out to me in making this number, I mean, look, Detroit on this season's been 9-5. They're one of the best teams against the spread all year. However, the road is where they're really not their best. Only 24 points a game. I say only because at home they're significantly better. Dome game, though. On the road, though, and I honestly think that this one may, in fact, come down to a field goal, but I'm not the one that's betting, folks.
Do you look at time zones when you're on the road? Because, isn't Minnesota and Detroit in the same time zone? They're both probably, central?
Yep, exactly. I don't really.
So is it really? It's slightly down the road, but
I have found that that's really kind of overplayed.
Okay.
Even that whole West Coast to the East Coast thing.
I got to update my algorithm.
Randy, remember algorithms.
Yeah.
The Randy White 3000 is going to have to get updated. You got to push a flash update to it, okay?
Okay, old guys don't get that far that fast.
All right, save the best for last. This is the Monday night game on Christmas evening, 5:15 p.m. Pacific. The Baltimore Ravens at 11-3 in what probably some people are saying is a Super Bowl preview at San Francisco. Both teams 11-3. The Niners opened 5. I really, really, really didn't want to open it up that high, so I didn't. I opened it up 4.5, but as everyone knows, or if you haven't, where have you been? Listen to this show. The bookmaker always considers, at least I do for the years that I've been booking, 4.5 to 5.5, pretty much the same number. So I opened it up a little low, 4.5. Shame on me, especially the area that we're in. Everyone's backing Bay Area teams no matter what. So the number went up to 5.5. The question, though, is that the ceiling? Randy, do you think that's the ceiling to that point spread?
I do. And again, this is another game that could turn out to be a field goal game. And again, as we were discussing earlier, ball control is going to play a key point in this. So I like the total lower, and I really do think this game could be a 24 20 game, 23-17, 23-20, I mean. So Baltimore's going to try to run the ball, which can they or will they, and then mix in the pass. 49ers are going to do what they do. And if you look at that trend, unless the 49ers get behind, they're going to push the tail on having a 6-minute drive or a 5.5-minute drive.
Interesting. So, Nick, Baltimore's won 4 in a row. San Francisco's won 6 in a row. You want to take a look a little bit on a home-away split. On the road, the Baltimore Ravens are 5-1 straight up, 4-2 against the spread. San Francisco at home, 5-1 straight up, 3-3 against the spread. Really, really tight in terms of their metrics offensively and defensively as far as how many yards they give up. Average points for is pretty much lockstep with each other. The defense is what, again, is remarkable, and that's why we're talking about them as Super Bowl contenders. Baltimore on the road is giving up just a shade over 2 touchdowns, 14.2 points per game. San Francisco at home giving up only 16.5. Man, I really want to somehow have you take off that Niners jersey and see if I could get some kind of opinion here on Baltimore. But, Nick, it's your mic.
Well, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The trend is your friend. And the trend for the Niners right now.
Let me write that.
Actually, you know what? You could write that
is
down.
your friend.
I'm going on right now. I'm going GoDaddy.com.
I'm going to write that down.
GoDaddy.
Man, you got a good night's sleep last night.
I'm telling you, the trend is your friend.com.
Yeah,
Sorry, I already
I
own
like
it.
that.
Just like that. Cost me 99 cents.
Can you use that with your wife when she's spending all the money? The trend is not your friend in that situation.
The last 5 games, the Niners have won by double digits.
Yep.
And they weren't playing slouch teams either. I don't see why anything is different here. I just don't. And I think the Niners, I think they have that team spirit. I mean, it's the best unselfish team we've seen in a long time. And I think it's a little payback from 2012, So
and
I think
don't forget this. This could be a preview of this year's Super Bowl.
I think the Niners beat the Ravens so bad this week that the Ravens completely get knocked out of place and they end up they're out. They're out.
He's
week 1
on
in
that
the playoffs.
49er bandwagon again.
Hold on.
Look what they did to the Eagles. How many games has the Eagles won since they played the Niners?
Nick Schulte, if I make the San Francisco 49ers minus 7.5, are you laying the number?
I'll take them 7.5.
Are you laying 10.5?
I'll take what's the alternate point spread?
A lot.
17.5.
A nice plus. Wait, what?
Niners by 17.5 is what I.
This is rare.
This could be a preview of the Super Bowl.
A really ugly one, according to Nick.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And it usually is, unfortunately. I mean, usually
Wait a minute. I got to write this down, too.
I have a lot to write down. The trend is your friend.com.
Yeah.
This is just a lot
So
of
the
data
fact-
here right now coming across.
where I'm going with this is I think all week, obviously, the defense on the Niners got a little exposed last week. They had some interior linemen that were out, but I think what makes the Niners so great this season is their ability to adjust on the fly.
Now, I haven't seen if Armstead's
and you saw
better.
that really happen during that Eagles game, the
Yes.
first few
Yep.
drives. And
For sure.
I was thinking after I saw it, if I'm Purdy right now, I'm on the sidelines, I'm telling all my receivers to make your cuts about 2 yards sooner because basically Philly was just jumping those routes and they couldn't get anything going.
Right.
And then what do you know? They just start scoring and they didn't stop till the end of the game. So
Now, I want you to think about this. And we've talked about it every week. There's something wrong with the teams that were in the playoffs last year. Whether it's in the locker room, hiding injuries. Let's face it, Jalen Hurts wasn't the same quarterback
100%.
the other night.
He also
That
got paid.
defense is very suspect for the Eagles. You look at this Ravens team. If you look at them, they're probably the only team that's managed to stay afloat. You look at the Cowboys. They had a rough period. 49ers had 3 in a row. Mahomes, who knows what you're getting with the Kansas City Chiefs. So you got to put that in perspective when you start talking about these teams that right now, because you want to finish the season strong. At least when I played, that's the way everybody said. You're going to have these lulls, but you want to end the season strong fashion going into the playoffs. And again, defense wins championships. So now as you look to the last 3 weeks ago, who are the best defensive teams? And you got to take that into mind when you're betting these teams.
I don't think the Niners can be stopped right now.
Okay, Niners can't be stopped either. Huh?
The
trend is your
The
friend.
trend is your friend. The Niners can't be stopped. Defense wins championships. I'm going to create the Mount Rushmore of most overused sayings. And we are going to talk about this in the next episode. I swear this. Guys, let's wrap this episode up with a nice tidy bow. Where did the bookie go wrong? I know, Nick, you just literally just told me that it was the Ravens and Niners. Is there another game where the bookie went wrong with a line?
Jags Bucks at a pick'em. How do you not take the Jags? Is there some injury news that I don't know about?
Very good. Thank you so much for that. Okay. I do think that there is some injury news that definitely is played into that number. But you're on Jacksonville here. Way out of whack is what you're saying.
Yeah, I would expect the Jags to be getting 4 to 5.5 points probably on this game. So.
Mr. White, take us home. Where did the bookie go wrong this week?
Well, I really believe the Rams are going to win by double digits against the Saints. And again, it's not you. Everybody has that game. And again, is there something I don't see with this one?
What's the trend between the last few years between Rams and Saints?
I have not looked at that, but I will pull that information from my computer. But right now, the Rams are playing very well. Saints, I really don't know. When Carr's in there, he doesn't look good. How the Saints keep winning is what baffles me.
I believe Carr just bought his entire offensive line Rolexes.
Well, that could help a little bit. But I'm telling you right now, this and with the Rams playing well at home, I think this is a blowout.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's our show for today.
A lot of unders this week. Watch the totals. Unders.
Randy White would rather have Chucky Carr at quarterback for all of you that have been watching baseball since the 90s.
I'm coming out of retirement at 64.
Nick clearly is wanting to remind you that the trend is your friend. Thanks so much for joining us.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you for listening to the Bookie and the Bettor Show. New episodes post every Thursday on your favorite streaming service.